Hello and welcome back to Devil's Gambit. We will be continuing where we left off, which should be for the final chapter 10, 11, and 12. Chapter 12 being the longest, I think. So yeah, we will finally see this wolf dude and behind them. And we'll be getting a little bit more interactions with Cadgan and Hector. It's not all good, unfortunately, for poor little Hector. Pobrecito. Pendejito. Anyway, so yeah. Strap in and get ready to see what happens in Devil's Gambit. After how my first visit went, I'm not thrilled to return to meet again with Manuel. But with my first payment drawing closer, comes a realization that it will be necessary since I failed to explain my situation and what I want to do with the money. I don't wish to provoke the sudden rage again. When the guard comes back and says that Manuel will see me, it's like I'm about to tread the edge of a pit. A single misstep means taking a plunge into the abyss. Thankfully, there aren't any wax models in his study today. Manuel is in deep thought as he writes something down, but gets up from his desk to greet me when I arrive. It's you. What do you want? Greetings, His Grace. It is an honor to be in your presence again. I, wanted to talk about my payment. Is it possible to have part of it delivered somewhere else? It depends. Where do you want it sent to? Back to my aunt, Nora in Oblon. My hometown needs the money, you see. How far is it? Oh, it's quite a ways away. It took me a while, over 3 weeks to get here. My fingers are trembling. Please don't refuse to do this now. Not when I've already wasted so much time. I can't move the money myself, and I don't know anyone who could reliably transport it. However, the Duke shrugs. That's all. Very well. It will be arranged. How much of your payment are we talking about? A half? A fourth? Half? The Duke calls for the guard still waiting outside and repeats what I told him. The man assures him that he'll see it done before excusing himself in a hurry. Is that all? Actually, His Grace, there is something else. Come out with it, then. I'm expecting somebody else today. I don't know if you are aware, but 9 years ago your father kept a young wolf here, as a guest. His eyebrows furrow and I embrace internally for him to lash out at me. Instead, he shoots back a question in a confused tone. 9 years ago? I am afraid back then I was still in the middle of my world tour, studying under the guidance of many doctors of great renown. I believe I heard my father took in a few guests while I was away, so there was a child among them. He might be mistaken, but let it slide, Hector. The important part is not contradicting him. His Grace back then, the Duke Leopoldino, hired my father to look into the child's condition, but our findings were inconclusive. I wondered if you could shed some light on what the illness was. Interesting. Let's take a stroll while we talk. Our steps echo in the mansion's hallways. To make it brief, and out of respect for Cadigan's privacy, I only describe the cyclical lethargy symptoms and the tests Dad performed. The Duke is interested only in that anyway. Speaking of Dad, I feel grateful to him right now. I wouldn't be able to hold my tongue in face of the Duke's arrogance if not for his education. My oh my, Father was expecting too much out of some backwater town's witch doctor. Sleep disorders like these are very unusual, but it's nothing unheard of. His insulting Dad makes my heart sink, and my blood heats up. But no, I need to keep my composure. You're a coward, Hector, but that's not always a bad thing. Cowardice can be a means of survival. I swallow every defense of my father, every insult aching to be hurled at the Duke, and coldly move on to my next question. What about the periods of weakness? That can be a symptom as well, though I admit it's a peculiar that it happened at a certain time of the day. Egan called it cyclical lethargy, yes? Perhaps you were dealing with a new disorder. I'll have to consult with my colleagues if there's a precedent for such a thing. His curiosity ignited, Manuel mumbles to himself about who he should write to. Maybe I'm pushing my luck, but I need to ask him one more question. Sorry to interrupt, Your Grace, but what about the Presmillion readings that we've received? Are those normal in these sleep disorder patients too? No, they aren't. But the irregular readings might have been unrelated to the cyclical lethargy. It's what would make the most sense, assuming that they weren't a mistake on your father's end. I'd like to examine the wolf in question, but I assume that isn't possible as I haven't caught wind of any resident with a mysterious illness. I am afraid so, yes. He's gone. Even if Cadigan was still sick, I couldn't direct the Duke to him. It's plain to see Manuel's interest veers towards research rather than healing. We are approaching the study when the Duke notices my eyes trailing off to the portrait of the sad-eyed lioness. Beautiful, isn't she? Who is she? Grandfather's first wife, Lady Josephine. It's nice to have a name for her after so long and to have something to remember her by besides her sadness. Your grandmother, then. She's beautiful. Not quite my grandmother. We are separated by too many generations. After a moment, I blink and turn to him. I don't understand. I might come from a backwater town, as the Duke puts it, but even I know that his kingdom rules are that the male firstborn inherits his father's rank. He tactically confirmed being related to Lady Josephine, which means the only person between them should be Leopoldino. Manuel shows me one of his rare smiles, but that only makes me more uncomfortable. Do you not know of my family's history? Come, I will show you. Back inside the study, he retrieves a tall, framed parchment labeled Dinastia Gloriosa de Restaura. That is a very long and probably Portuguese name. There's a bunch of tiny portraits and names on it, arranged and connected in a manner reminiscent of a family tree. I say reminiscent because the connections are more akin to a spider's web than a tree. Many of the lines are inked in different colors for better readability, but I still don't know where to start. While the Duke is going off about his great-great-something grandfather, I'm just trying to find where he is in this mess. Where is he? Manuel, and then... that's his mother. Where's Leopoldino? My eyes grow wide as they go up a staircase of lionesses, all mothers of the last and all looping back to where Leopoldino is, 3 spaces above where you'd expect to find him. Also, the one he had his first daughter with was his sister. I don't dare look further up, but what little I gleaned tells me it's even worse. Whatever you do, Hector, don't say what's on your mind. I'm safe when a guard knocks and announces the next guest is arrived here. The lion clears his throat and holds the family web to his chest. You will have to leave. I have confidential matters to attend with my other guest. Such a shame. Let's continue this delightful conversation another day. Right, of course. I won't take any more of your time, Your Grace. Such is the relief that washes over me after I leave the study that, upon reaching the lower floor, I almost miss an old wolf being escorted down the hallway to my left. His limping reminds me of Finbar. He must have received that injury during one expedition. I suppose it makes sense the Duke isn't meeting him in his study. Dad was a witch doctor in his eyes, and he's only spared me of that label because I used some of his inventions. Whatever he thinks of the wolves must be horrible enough to sink my heart into new depths. It makes me wonder why this wolf is meeting with the Duke, but my desire to leave outweighs my curiosity. As I leave the mansion behind, my thoughts trail off back to Lady Josephine. It's no wonder her eyes reflected such sorrow. If seeing the web on paper was horror, I can't imagine being there as it was weaved. Act 1, Chapter 11. The Leaf Burning Festival. The dark overtakes everything as I keep staring at my room ceiling. I'm almost shaking under all 3 bedsheets, unable to withstand the cold any longer. It disappears for a while after the visit to the Eye Valley, only to return 2 nights ago. I've wandered away from the fire for too long, though it might be more accurate to say the embers have gone cold again. There's much keeping me busy during the day, enough that I don't notice it. It's only when I'm here alone, wishing to be elsewhere and with someone at my side that I tremble. The leaf-burning festival had seemed close when picking it to talk with Cadigan, but the nearer it draws, the longer the nights become. No matter how long I close my eyes, thinking about what to do and say keeps me awake. Oh, Cadigan, I really liked it when you stole my food, used me as an armrest, and suggested that we do dangerous things all the time. Can you do that again? Absurd. Eventually, I tire of the fuzzy chaos behind my eyelids and choose to stare at the ceiling instead, that's when it spreads to my back and my nerves stir as if I am laying on a bed of nails. That is until exhaustion overtakes me in what has to be the slowest, most torturous lullaby. Except today, it's too much. I'm sick of this ceiling, of these sensations. I throw the bedsheets back, they do nothing anyway, and head out. From the uppermost floor, I can see movement behind the bar. A lone lamp illuminates Arwell's form. He's drinking some beer. The dragon looks my way when I finish descending the stairs, squinting before gasping in surprise. Friend, what are you doing up so late? Couldn't sleep. Do you usually drink at night? Yep. Want some? I'd like to just sit down. Arwell gulps the drink down and after letting out a satisfied ah, begins cleaning the mug. What ails you, friend? Who knows? What is ailing you to be drinking at night? Just the usual. Everybody's so unhappy as of late. It's difficult to see my clients with such long faces despite my best efforts. That and no one has been capable of taking me in years. And believe me, brave souls have tried. His breath reeks of alcohol. That definitely wasn't the first mug he downed tonight. Maybe you should summon a succubus? I'm sure it would welcome the challenge. Succubus? What's that? I once read in a book there are demons that offer mortals sexual favors. The ones that seek to be penetrated are called succubuses. Well, that same book also warned never to fuck one, since there are too many risks. But it might be worth it in your case, no? Ha! Giving up my soul to a demon or never fucking somebody again. Which one's worse? Options, options. The dragon makes a thinking gesture before pouring himself another mug. But no, even if it didn't take my soul, I don't want a one-night stand with a demon, no sir. Arwell is at the age where he's looking for a committed relationship. Betting on a talented foreigner to show up one of these days? Not exactly. It's true that no one can take me, but never did I say that's a requirement. I don't even prefer it, to be honest. The gilded scales glint behind him as his tail shakes, dragging against the wood behind him. Oh. Though I wouldn't mind it if that talented foreigner were to show up. If he was anything like you with that plump build and pleading eyes, it'd be my pleasure to clasp his cheeks. Haha. I've heard dragons can sense changes in body temperatures. I don't know how much truth there is to that, but right now I hope it's a lie because I don't want Arwell to notice how hot my face has gotten. Is he teasing me? Or is he so drunk that he's babbling nonsense? Dragons don't have that much alcohol resistance, right? I should have secured Manuel's journal on that. I was thinking, could it be the thing from the other day still bothering you? I hope I don't seem nosy. No, you don't. But, it might not be a bad idea to talk to Arwell, if only because I could use a listening ear, and he's so intoxicated that he might not remember this by tomorrow. Just in case, be subtle, Hector. You see, it's about Cadigan. The fact that the dragon just nodded tells me that he suspected that was the case. I know I'm obvious, but Arwell noticing that much sends blood rushing to my ears. Don't stumble now, Hector, unless you want to embarrass yourself further. I told you Cadigan was very different when young, yes? Is it bad that I'd liked him better that way? What do you mean? He used to have this energy to him, like he never faltered. I admired that, I really did, and now I miss it. And I don't understand how he can be so calm with everything the Duke's doing. Well, the current situation in Rannai is complicated. I think Cadigan knows that he won't accomplish much by getting mad at his grace. He has changed, but that's only because he grew as a person. The expedition won't last forever. Rannai just needs to get through this tough period. Cadigan has been doing much good with his peacekeeping. I reckon if not for him, blood would have been spilled by now. I know, but I still miss him. I'm afraid that I don't understand you there, my friend. But perhaps I can still offer some advice. This is something my parents told me once. They've been married for 40 years and are still going strong. By the time that I could walk, they had grown sick of each other, and I mean a kind of sick where mom couldn't stand dad so much, she would rather take her pillow and the bedsheet and sleep on the floor next to my bed than be with him. But love persevered in the end. Want to know why? Why? It's hard to let go of the people you love. When that love is real, it's like losing a part of yourself, right? That always starts as a blessing, but it turned into a curse for my parents when they grew into the people too different from when they were married. You and Cadigan aren't a couple, but what you said reminded me of that. But then it was a blessing again because they still didn't want to be apart. It wouldn't be the way it was at the start, but they try to make it work and fall in love with each other all over again. And that's how it is. When you want to keep someone close, when you do anything for them, you gotta put in the effort to make it work. Love makes it worth it. The sun rises and pale light washes over the town. The wolf, dressed in black, is doing his morning rounds, systematically turning off every oil lamp. A wolf sits by the stables, peering into the forest, watching for returning scouts. While the farmers are out working the fields or leading herds, women and children walk the streets, painting the walls with crude depictions of gaping pitch-black mouths, red eyes, and claws. The construction crew is erecting stalls and preparing the to-be bonfire in front of the old shrine. On account of its tower, it's the tallest building in Rannai, though not the biggest. That honor belongs to the hospital. With most of the town's priests dead or retired, and the last of them having retreated to a humbler place in the forest, it saw little use even 11 years ago. Nowadays it's been turned into a storehouse. A capeless Cadigan transports bundles of branches long as his body over his shoulders, tossing them into the to-be bonfire before rearranging them. I'm standing across the street watching his bulging biceps and gray back all the while. So enthralled am I that I don't notice his eyes on mine. The wolf jogs towards me. "Hello, Hector. Out of the hospital already?" "Yes, I was on my way to see my patients in town. How are the preparations going?" "Pretty well, although this year's festival will have to be a little humble. Usually we gather money to hire a band from the next town over." "Surely Rannai has some musical talent. It'd be a good chance to see what they can do." I adjust my belt. "I better get back to work." "Before you go, have you collected any haze leaf yet?" "I know what's the point of the festival, but it slipped from my mind." "Let's meet at home later. I also haven't gathered mine, so we can do it together." "Sure thing." It's almost sunset when I arrive in Cadigan's place, and we dive into the forest. It's a quick endeavor as the mind-numbing haze leaf is easy to differentiate from the many other smells. For once, I'm the one leading Cadigan, which I'm proud of. Although I have second thoughts when I reach for the purplish herb. The difference with the one in the valley is plain to see. It doesn't look like vines, but remembering what happened during the last expedition gives me pause. I just rip it and put it in a pouch. Drums reverberate ferociously as though to tear down houses and trees alike. Wolves wearing loincloths, painted demon faces, and horn-shaped wooden cups over their ears bounce through the streets with baskets in their hands. My heart stops at the sight of the purple vines creeping up the walls, but upon closer inspection, they are just ropes that have been dyed purple and propped up with nails. I can't catch a break though, as one of the demons stops centimeters from my nose, muttering a phrase that I don't understand. "What?" "Hand over your offering, or else you will suffer the curse." "Oh, this?" The demon tosses my haze leaves inside the basket before turning to Cadigan and repeating the process. He then hops away in search of more of these titties. "I'm glad everyone's enjoying themselves." "I like the music too. It looks like you didn't need the band after all." "The drumming is too intense for my liking, but it fits the festival's mood much better than the cheerful tune bands often play." Two children are running all over the place with sticks in their hands, their mothers chasing them not too far behind. Wolves and even a few lions are trying their luck at the game stalls. One has rows of tiny wooden soldiers arranged on a shelf. The owner hands us 3 stones each and tells us to knock over as many soldiers as we can. I'm nervous from all the eyes on us, but that isn't compared to when my stone bounces off from a statue. I take a step back and put my entire body into the next 2 throws, only barely knocking over 2 soldiers. Just how heavy are these things? Cadigan pats me on the shoulder and gives me a small smile. The owner stands back when the mountain of a wolf prepares to swing. Next plays out a spectacle of soldiers flying and falling all over the place before being swallowed by the void behind the stall and the shelf. It's not just his sheer strength, he sends them flying in such a way that they knock over everything else nearby, perfectly calculated destruction. A small audience follows us as we move to the next game. It's no wonder, be it a competition of intelligence, strength, or precision, Cadigan conquers it. They don't cheer as much for me, but it's alright. All I care about is that Cadigan is looking at me and is having fun. Eventually, the pace of the drumming picks up as the demons gather and dance around the bonfire. Then they shoot off in different directions, tearing the vines from the walls as they go. Oh my, is it time for the burning? Wanna watch it? Having rid the town of all the vines, the demons reunite in front of the old church once again and light the bonfire. Their dance continues as they toss in first the ropes and then the haze leaves. The townspeople clap their hands in the rhythm of the drums. I join them, and so does Cadigan after me. The big wolf struggles to find the song's beat for a moment, so he just looks my way and claps after I do. A chuckle escapes me, at which point I notice the insides of his ears turn a little red. Or maybe it's the fire. Then it's my ears turn red when the wolf's tail brushes against my leg, seemingly without its master realizing it. It's so soft that I'm tempted to grab it just to feel it up, and to take it, that pleasant, unique aroma that I only sense hints of from this distance. No, ignore it, Hector. Keep your eyes on the dance. Unfortunately, the sight of the dancers' bulky yet agile silhouettes circling the bonfire ends up being like oil to the fire in my crotch. Why are they all so voluminous? I continue clapping, hoping Cadigan doesn't notice. The flames die down, the demons disperse and disappear into the shadows, and the crowd disperses. We return to Arwell's nest. It's quiet at first, eerily so after all the celebration, but soon more wolves arrive until it's bustling with activity too. Arwell is so busy that he only has time for a greeting while serving us our drinks. You killed it at the stalls tonight. You do that every year? Nah, that spoiled the fun. I usually prefer to stand back and watch. Showing off to me then? The look on the man's face when you got ready to throw was priceless. How surprisingly mean of you, Hector. He feared for his life. Says the one that scared him. Besides, I'm no saint. I ask Arwell for a refill. The dragon just shows us that fatherly smile of his before walking away again. Come to think of it, that's your fault too. I was a model son before I met you. Then you beat me up and suddenly I'm lying to my father. Slow down with the beer, Hector. You make me sound like a bully. Because you were one. Why did it surprise you I'm a peacekeeper then? Some people say peacekeepers and such are contracted bullies. It's true, it's true. But you are too nice. Never met a bully that gives away money rather than takes it. Wait, did somebody call you that? Point me to them. I'm gonna whoop their butt. Definitely drunk. The wolf tenses up and raises his arms in a long stretch. My face gets a little warmer. Well, gotta get back to work tomorrow. If only we could have that festival for the entire week. Come to think of it, you still work as usual, right? Oh yes, I'm exhausted to be honest. Want to call it a night early? Absolutely. We walk side by side in silence. I know what I need to do. I've been preparing for it all day, and yet I'm drawing a blank now. I can't let the day end with Catgan telling me goodbye and retreating to his shack again. I can't let the memory of this day turn cold as well. Do something, anything, Hector. Oh? Catgan is surprised by me suddenly clinging to his arm. He stops in his tracks and faces me. What is it? Too tipsy to walk? Maybe you should have stayed at the tavern. God, why can't I say it? I'm so frustrated, tears are welling up. Hector? Cadgan, I'm a coward. The wolf blinks with a look as though trying to decipher the meaning of my words. There is nothing deeper to grasp, however. I'm just stating a fact. Even though you accepted going into the Eye Valley, you have an interesting idea of a coward, Hector. You were there, so it was nothing. You know, I'm not very confident as a doctor either. I don't think that I'll ever live up to Dad, but I still have to do what I can. Do you know how I gather some courage? How? I started doing this for work, but it eventually spilled into other things, but I have this image of who I'd like to be as a doctor, right? I pretend that I'm him and I talk to myself, Hector, do this, do that. and that helps me calm down when I'm distressed. Everything is easier when I have someone giving me direction or telling me what to do, I guess. Like you in the valley. I see. And I wonder if you didn't used to do something similar back at the Duke's mansion. Like you used to put on this sort of bravado. Hector. I didn't realize it back then, but I loved you, Catgan. I still do, and that too makes me scared because you are so different now that I can't tell what's going through your head most of the time. And Hector, his voice, stern but gentle, takes me out of my rambling state. Is it hope, fear, or something else that he's seeing in my eyes? That silence, accompanied only by rustling leaves, lasts for so long that I'm about to beg him to say anything. But then Cadgan lets out a sigh. It doesn't even make a mist. Why would it? Instead, it freezes me in place until blood doesn't reach my toes and fingers and makes my heart stop beating. I know, Hector. I've known for a while. I didn't want to assume, but it's been written all over your face. And you said nothing? Because I hoped that I was mistaken. I didn't want to hurt you. Oh no, don't say that. 9 years ago, I also felt that way about you, Hector. But, well, it's true that I'm too different. Yes, you being different scared me. But that means nothing. Rannai, no, you are important to me. When I came back, I was hoping to find the same person that I knew, not considering how you'd grown up. But that doesn't mean that we can't try, right? I still want to be with you, Cadgan. Even though you are different, I still care about you the same way that I did back then. I try to grab his hand again, but he pulls away. Hector, if you... Cadgan grinds his teeth as though trying to bite down his words. His nostrils flare, hands curl into fists, ears flick as if searching for a distant sound, but his eyes remain locked on me. Rannai is... I... His voice comes out raspy as a cough, and it brings me back to the time that he choked near the river. The panic from back then is about to resurface until he takes a deep breath, his chest and shoulders rising, before letting it all out. It's then that I see it. His gaze betrays a sliver of hope, a need unfulfilled, a lone lantern lighting up the way on a stormy winter night. But the storm is too much. Little by little, it's buried by the snow and vanishes. Hector, you're wonderful. You're much braver and talented than you think, but you deserve better. There is no one else like you, Cadgan. Even then, I can't give you what you want, and I can't bear to put you at risk. Risk? Do you mean the Duke? I don't... But I do. I want you to be happy, Hector, to be safe. But I can't promise you that. I just can't. A sniffle. Are you crying, Hector? I don't understand. I don't want to lie to you, make you believe that I can make this work. That it hurt you all the more, and I couldn't bear to put you through that. I'm sorry, Hector, but I'm not the person that you love anymore. It's better this way, isn't it, Hector? Think about it. Isn't this how most childhood crushes end? How many couples do you know that met when they were children and stuck around each other until adulthood? This isn't anything extraordinary. You aren't living in a fairy tale. The good news is that almost everyone has gone through this, and if they got over it, then so will you. For now, apologize to Cadgan. Let him know that you'll be returning to the tavern. You need some alone time. And then cry, Hector. Get in bed and hug your pillow to your heart's content. Imagine a life that you can't have until your heart is exhausted. Starting tomorrow, we'll work on getting over this. For now, rest. Act 1, Chapter 12. The Devil of Rannai. How weird it was seeing him like this. Cadigan, Star Drinker, Duke, Defier, Window Slayer. He walked towards the river with his shoulders slumped, looking at his feet. It wasn't that he had woken up from his lethargy, nor had he choked again. He was just sad. It was such a nice day that I wanted to take a dip in the river. Cadigan had half-heartedly accepted, following me half a dozen steps behind. But when we arrived, he kept quiet, sitting under a tree on the riverbank and hugging his own legs as he stared at the water. His gaze was so firm, I looked into the river to check if something interesting had caught his attention, but to no avail. I put down our towels before kneeling next to him. "Well, what's the matter? Not feeling like it after all?" Hmm. Don't me. What's wrong? Sometimes the Duke says something about everything having a place in nature. Do you know about that? A lot of herbalism books that I've read talk about that. I mentioned to you once, remember? About how for every illness there is a cure, that everything has a purpose. But if those words came out of the Duke's mouth, then surely they carried much darker meanings. I wonder what my purpose is. Such a question was very typical for boys of our age. Me and a bunch of the boys in Oblon couldn't relate to it, as it was decided early on that we retrace our parents' steps. But whenever we went to the houses of wealthy clients in the city, if they had a son of my age, chances were that they'd be wrestling with the same question. It was the privilege of those with opportunities, which is why it was peculiar hearing it from Cadigan. It made sense, though. He wasn't wondering this out of an abundance of futures, but a complete lack of. He'd been denied his freedom for so long, and there still wasn't an end in sight for his confinement. What would he even do once the Duke let him go? Is there a place for me somewhere? Of course, Cadigan. Where? I give him a small shrug. Rannai. No one can take away your hometown. It'll welcome you back with open arms whenever you get out of here. No, they'll just say I'm a troublemaker. That's what everyone thinks, right? It's what the Duke tells everyone who'll listen. All the servants, guards talk about it too. Even the townsfolk who come over. All they talk about is my illness. Everyone is interested in me because of that stupid disease and nothing else. After that settles, no one will want me for anything. Everything would be better if I disappeared. The way he looked at the water sent a shiver down my spine. That's not true. How do you know? I took his hand and squeezed it tight, locking eyes with him. I looked deep into the sky within them, holding on as though not to fall into it, because I knew the words would escape me otherwise. You do have a place in the world, because you are here with me now. And I want you to be here. If the people of Rannai won't welcome you back, then I will. I miss you whenever I'm away. Did you know that? Everything's boring without you and days feel like they'll never end. Every night that I go to bed with the book, wishing you were there with me, and fall asleep thinking of the next time that we'll come and visit you. You do? Of course you do. I should have known you would. That was his first smile that day. It took me in, as did his arms, as they pulled me into a hug. His fingers dug into my clothes. His cheek found a place in the crook of my neck, and after I got my bearings, I wrapped my arms around him as well. It was summer. He smelled like fresh grass, tree bark, and pine cones. God, he was so light, and shorter than me too. In my memories of Rannai, he always felt like a larger-than-life figure, that magnetic rebel, but he was so small. We held each other for as long as we could, but nowhere near as long as I wanted to. I still feel his shirt, my fingers digging into it. I didn't want that moment to end. I remember now, this was one of the last conversations that I had with Cadigan 9 years ago, before he was cured of his illness. There isn't much of a story to that. One day, Dad was performing his daily checkups when, well, nothing happened. We waited a few days and monitored him closely, but nothing happened. As suddenly as I imagined it manifested with no explanation, his illness disappeared. Everything has a place in this world, but there are truths that are difficult to discern, that seem to defy reason. These truths serve a higher purpose, unbound to the understanding of us mortals. A thought, fate brought us together. A few days later, we returned to town with Cadigan for the first time, and that same day we left Rannai for what would be the last time for 9 years. After that talk, I wasn't sure that he'd be fine alone in town, but he reassured me that he'd be all right. As we shared our last hug, long enough to betray a want deeper than friendship, I was convinced that I'd see him again soon. Although I didn't know why, Fate had brought us together. We'd see each other again. Our bond had meaning. And I never been so sure about anything else in my life. How foolish I was. The illness was just some sleep disorder no one knew about. And our bond, time has put it to the test during these 9 years. It's strong, but nothing as romantic as I hoped. Such an idiot. What a fool that you are, Hector. Ah, cat again. It's been 9 years. You thought that I'd still be sneaking out at night, throwing pebbles at noblemen's windows and crawling through secret passages? Please get serious. A childish part of me hoped for that, yes, but I knew it wasn't a reasonable expectation. What did you want from me then? I don't know. After Dad died, I changed. I had to in order to survive. But I thought that deep down, we'd still be the same people, and I hoped that you'd still think of me in the same way, and as often as I think of you. You thought wrong. I'm an adult now, Hector. Yes, but sometimes I still see it. That look that you used to have. What look? What are you talking about now? Fiery, searing, as though you'd burn me if I got too close. Since I returned, whenever I was about to lose heart to accept the old you was gone, I saw it. That alone kept my hope alive. I missed you so much, Cat again. Every night I'd hug my pillow wishing it was you. He shakes his head and my heart sinks once again. God, Hector, you're pathetic. Come on, would you climb a mountain just because you spotted a lit ember buried under the snow? His tail lashes behind him. I swear he shows a canine when he spits out lit ember. Would you dive into the ocean because you caught a glimpse of a gem on the seabed? That sharpness in his voice, that brutal honesty that I could always rely on, the lack of fear that taught me to stand up to my father. And his eyes, God, for the first time in 9 years, it's like he's truly looking at me, seeing me. Foolish, ignorant man. It doesn't even cross my mind firing back. His words don't sting, don't even feel like an insult. Instead, tears cascade from my eyes, each one warmer and sadder than the last. This is the cat again that I love. I can't hide my sorrow. I sob and fall down like a child. He takes a step back, and I see in his tense stance, his chest locked mid-breath, the glimmering eyes, from head to toe, emotions. When he crouches to check on me, he tilts his head, trying to get a better look at my face. Did I go too far? No. It's just that that's the attitude that I expected of you. Every time I screwed up and all you did was let it slip, or just smile, it was so disappointing. God, there's something wrong with me, isn't it? Wanting the man that I love to insult me, to tear into me. His fingers land on my mouth, and from this comes a gentle hush. Silence, Badger. His voice comes out so soft, so tender. It reminds me of that night that we sneaked out to the river, so loving he could have picked the stars, the moon, even our fates from the dark waters. Come here, let me hold you, like old times, but different. I lunge and envelop him with my arms, but his back is so broad that I can't even wrap around him. In the blink of an eye, we are no longer standing up, we are instead laying down together, as if that longing farewell embrace and all the nights reading together mixed into one moment. Like old times, but different. I lay my head on his chest and feel a heartbeat that cannot exist. My best friend, my first love, warm and intense, as if we are still innocent, but in the body of this mountain of a man. His hands, rugged and thickly knotted, sink into my fur, and in each curling finger, in each claw grazing my skin, there is an ember. He leans in, not to kiss, but to place his nose on my neck. He takes a whiff, and I do the same on his chest. His scent is like an entire world on its own. The damp, gloomy soil after the rain, aged tree bark and root, remnants of the smoke from the festival. Alongside it is something familiar, but that I can't quite place, that awakens a nagging feeling in the back of my mind. And underneath it all, there is also the smell of that young wolf that I loved without knowing, aged now into a fully grown man. I missed you so much. I was already crying, but now I'm sobbing onto his chest, because I know this is all. I was a fool to Hector. You were? Unforgivably so. Again, it's that voice that I know so well, with subtle inflections as if 1,000 different thoughts are running through his mind. He leans in closer to my ear, his breath making me tingle. I should have known that a wimp like you would turn out like this, unable to get enough of my bullying. At least I'm glad that I was a good influence on you. I'd reckon you'd have no spine at all if I hadn't taught you how to lie to your daddy. I wouldn't. I'd only be Yagon's masterpiece and not a thing more. Not a person, just a doctor. He freezes, he looks away, ponders, then looks down at me with a grin. Yes, that's what he'd have done to you if he had the chance. But don't be so rough on your old man. Even if that's true, he was decent. Better than decent, damn it. He was twice the doctor than anyone in this town, even that inbred Manuel. That noble piece of shit could go on his trips and schools and dinners with his fancy friends while my dad had to learn it all with what little was afforded to him back then. I dig my claws into him. A yelp comes first, but it's laughter that follows. All right, you still hold him in such high esteem, huh? But sure, I'll give you that. Egon's the only doctor that I regret playing my pranks on. Shouldn't have slipped that spider on his shoe. He deserved better. Believe it or not, I was looking forward to seeing him again, even had an entire speech prepared. And what did you mean to tell him? I was gonna thank him for bringing such a fine morsel to me. Sinking my teeth and turning you into a rascal was a highlight of those years. And I'd apologize too for ruining his perfect masterpiece. I sink my claws on his arm. Ouch, damn, you really grew a spine after all. Maybe it's good that I rejected you. Had I used you as a footrest today, you wouldn't have one for long. Don't say that. The Duke couldn't get me to shut up. What makes you think that I'll quiet down now? I'll say whatever the hell I want. Even if every other word he's fooling around, I can't help but wish that this could last forever, that this wasn't a dream. Huh, even in my arms you look so pathetic. What dark magic did you make me fall in love with you as a kid? So you love me too? You weren't lying just to console me? Of course I did. Of course I fucking did. Don't you know after returning to Rannai how often I went to bed thinking of the day that you'd come back? All the times that I pictured our next meeting. Every time a carriage would pass through town, I'd come by and check if a badger or two were in it. Every damn time. After a while, I got worried and tired sending you letters, though I guess those never reached you. Is this all true, Cadigan? Of course it is. You think I'd lie about it? I mean, are you even real? This is a dream. His voice lowers and his breath comes almost freezing. I am real, Hector. Then tell me, just what made you change so much? His lips part, teeth showing as a thin white line, and his chest rumbles as he chuckles. How the hell would I know? Of course. It just happened, Hector. It just did. Will this be the last time that I see you like this? The old, foul-mouthed, mischievous man that I loved? I tighten my hug around the wolf, and he goes quiet. His gaze is so fixed on me, I fear I displeased him, that the dream may end, or worse, that the spell has broken and he returned to his cold self. But instead, he answers by tightening his own grip around me. The softest whimper escapes him as his fingers caress the back of my neck. Please hold me, and don't let go. His voice comes different, deeper on the verge of tears, from such depths his soul that it makes even my chest rumble. I've dreamed of this for so long. When we hugged by the river just a few days before Cadigan's illness disappeared, I was taller than him. He was the one standing on the tips of his toes to fit his muzzle on my shoulder while digging his fingers into my clothes. His were the sobs muffled by my shirt. Tonight I'm the one pressing my cheek against his chest, sinking into his white fur, trusting him to hold and put me back together, telling me that it will be all right, even if we know it won't. God, thank you for letting me hug and love this ghost one last time, even if the man that I love will never know about these tears that I'm shedding. Thank you. Here, with my face pressed against him, listening to his heartbeat, Cadigan and I will never walk together during the winter after the first snowfall, but I can pretend that we did. And there, treading the undisturbed snow as the sun set, we'd find a place so silent that we'd hear each other's heartbeats. We'd hug like this, not the feeling the slightest bit of cold, and I'd appreciate every bit of strength this man mustered over the years. I have too many regrets about things that I could have done, but that now won't come to be, about chances that I missed. Here in his arms, I realize how badly I wanted to tell him. I didn't have the guts to tell you, but when we were coming back from the valley, I kind of wanted to ask you to carry me instead. You're just so big now, I bet you wouldn't have broken a sweat. Oh yes, I could tell. During the whole walk back, I was half expecting you to ask me to. You did? Of course, you're transparent, Hector. It's plain to see. You were always staring at my chest and arms, making no attempt to hide it. I swear your legs were shaking when I destroyed the targets at the festival. His heavy mitt of a hand pressed my head and ear against his chest, and I can hear his heartbeat. With half of my face covered, my other eye can only see his white fur. It's like a fantasy come true. If things had been different, Badger, I'd have picked you up over my shoulder, or maybe bridal style, and I'd have speared you away from Rannai. Any place would be home if you'd be with me. I nuzzled up against his chest. I wish I could make this real. I'd give up anything. My career, my home, even my soul, in exchange. His arms tightened around me almost playfully. I'd rather like that. For you to entrust everything to me. Your past, present, future. I'll love and cherish all of you. I'll put you through pleasure so intense that they'll change you. You think that you've reached maturity? You think that you know who you are in the world? But you'll see that everything that you'll latch onto, your noble doctor's station, that scientific thinking, your good manners. One hand travels to my lower back, and, as though to never let me go, to make me his possession, Cadigan squeezes all of me against him, including our crotches. It elicits a moan out of me, but the wolf doesn't even notice it in his dominant frenzy. All of it is insignificant, a willful distraction from your actual roles as a plaything to fuck and claim and own. After a single night, tied to me like a bitch, getting pumped full of my... You will see that was what you spent your entire life searching for. But worry not, Badger. I'll make my time fitting my into you, wearing out every resistance. I'll have you calling out my name in bliss every second. And you'll enjoy every moment of being branded as mine, in body and mind. And in your delicious soul. His voice dips into a possessiveness and a weight that I can't describe, as if he's whispering straight into my brain. I wonder if Cadigan can sense how fast my heart is beating, or the heat accumulating in my loins. His grip relaxes at some point, which allows me to pull back just enough to meet the shit-eating grin. Hector. He's wagging his tail. My memories about Cadigan are like burn marks etched into my skin. To remember them is to touch a scar, so I recall the story behind it. The oldest ones from 11 years ago are fading, but among them is one that invokes an image so clear, it's like I'm back to the first time that we exchanged glances in the Duke's garden, and to our subsequent encounter in the mansion's hallway. I want to see it again. I wiggle in Cadigan's arm, and as though he can tell what I'm thinking, the wolf also repositions himself so that our eyes meet. There it is, his searing gaze, gently, to not risk losing sight of it even for an instant. I bring my forehead against his. But it's not quite as I remember it being. In the past, his flames had sought to burn anything that got too close. Now, it's as though they have a purpose. Not that they are any less wild. The underlying anger, spite, and righteousness are still there. They still burn Red like blood. It's just different, though in a good way. Suddenly, the searing gaze moves and my body tenses up as Cadigan drags his long, wet tongue across my cheek. What are you doing? What? The next step after rubbing foreheads is licking each other. Or didn't you know? It's the first time that I'm hearing about it. You've never laid with someone else, have you, Hector? To think that you've been saving yourself for me to this extent. Such a devoted badger. But fret not, I'll teach you all you need to know before I destroy you. I can only chuckle at having my lack of experience exposed. He's obviously lying, so what did I do or say to give it away? Or am I so obvious that he can just tell? Though my joints are rigid and my heart is hammering against my chest, I work up the courage to look into Cadigan's eyes. Once more, they are so deep and mesmerizing, his breath is hot as it hits my nose. He's really become such a handsome man. I'm lucky to be in his embrace. Am I not? Who cares about what is or isn't real? When I go to sleep tomorrow, will this Cadigan still be waiting for me? Will he hold me and insult me again? Regardless, I will treat this as the last time that I'll ever talk to him. I'm done doubting myself, missing chances and piling up regrets. Right now, everything is where it should be, so let me partake in it, experience what could have been down to every last detail. Dig into his back as I pull us closer. As our breaths intertwine, his eyes reflect a devotion taller than Rannai's summits, deeper than the valley's most profound darkness. Which is why I'm baffled when he stops me by placing a finger on my nose. What's the matter? It's too soon for that, Hector. Why? I don't want this opportunity to slip by. Please. It won't. Not if you haven't given up. I follow the wolf's gaze towards the void above us. It's as though there was something invisible, yet perceptible there. Don't you feel it drawing closer, Hector? Encroaching and surrounding you? Thousands of flower petals burst open, dozens of spring all at once. He was born among screams here in Rannai, where the earth has mouths to swallow and sky, eyes. As though breaking out from under a lake surface, I gasp for air. I sit up frantically looking around. Murky moonlight enters through the window, illuminating the desk. This is my room. Then I'm awake? The now dry streaks on my sheets say yes. But that dream was so vivid, it's difficult to tell. Cat again? No matter how long I stare into the darkness in front of me, the wolf doesn't show up again. Just as quickly as it came, the tension drains from my body, and I flop back onto the bed. I wish it had lasted longer, that I had never woken up from that dream. What do I need to do to be in Cadigan's arms again? Would it suffice to just close my eyes and wish for it? How convenient would that be? I close my eyes with a sigh and hug my pillow. It's right then, when I notice heartbeat that has calmed down and my thoughts have been silenced, that I notice a scent that's been there since I woke up. The same one that I sensed in my dream, the scent of the Eye Valley. And right after that comes a realization that what I'm hugging is too bulky to be my pillow. In the same place where Cadigan's face would have been moments ago are two rubies instead. Ah, is that what the lion saw during the first attempt at the expedition? It must have been, yes, because the rubies are blinking. Before I can muster any further thought, they pounce at me. I scream and roll off the bed, making a break for my desk. Get the pedestal. No, the lamp. Now armed, I head straight for the door, only to run into a wall. It should be right there, so I try to feel my way to the door frame, but no matter how long I search, I can't find it. Heaving and with shaky hands, I take a hold of the bottom of the lamp and release magic. It comes out as a spark, but that's enough for the oil to light up violently, flames licking the top of the chamber. Huh? It's not there. The door's gone. Something shifts behind me. I hold my breath and turn around. It escapes my lungs first as an exhale and then as a snicker. The smell from the valley, the rubies, the disappearing door. I'm still dreaming, aren't I? A wolf lies on my bed, on his side and using one hand as a headrest. Eyes red like blood, strange markings on his ears, and a very scant clothing. But what truly draws my gaze are the hooves at the end of his feet. I know what this is. I have heard about it since I first set foot in Rannai, but that's not possible, so this has to be a dream. Then why does his smile make me so uneasy? Badger, you ought to know that this isn't a proper way to greet a venerable spirit. I back up as he gets up, but I immediately hit the wall. The entity stands tall, ears almost touching the ceiling, before stepping off the bed and approaching me. He points downwards. On your knee, head down. Half complying, half collapsing from fear, I obey his orders. His hooves come into view as he stops right in front of me. A touch all too similar to the forest's thin fingers runs through my head and nape. Claws scrape my skin like hungry daggers. They tear apart any delusion that I might still hold, that this is a dream. This is all real. Do you understand? Yes. I didn't mean to disrespect you. Forgive me, please. The entity chuckles, stroking more forcefully, savoring my fear. Good boy. Stand up. The entity, no, the demon's touch retreats. With one hand on the wall and the other gripping the lamp, I get on my feet. Tell me your name, Badger. Hector of Oblon. Who are you? He grins, playing with one of his nipple rings, as though weighing whether to answer the question. But he's only toying with me. A demon won't refuse to give their name. Ronskai, Watchman of the Eye Valley, Devil of Rannai. Are you the one behind all the accidents? The evil look on his face says it all, but that can only mean one thing. Are you after me because I work for the Duke? Please have mercy. I'm only a doctor and I only stepped into the valley once. Your nerves are as sturdy as a piece of butter in a hot pot. Calm yourself, foolish man. I am not interested in punishing you. But then why? Be not afraid. I'm pursuing a mutually beneficial arrangement. The demon licks his lips and steps closer. Although I have nowhere to run away to, he slams his arms on either side of me, cornering me between him and the wall. It's a fight to not fall on my knees again. I was reawakened by that idiotic line, uselessly trying to invade my territory, like the many men that tried and failed before him. However, thanks to that, my legend once again strikes fear into the hearts of men. But after a year, I've grown tired of feeding on only fear. Oh, but then here you are, pent up, frustrated, heartbroken. Delicious. From the moment that I sensed you, I've wanted to eat your heart out. He might get his wish because it feels as though my heart is about to jump out of my chest. But this won't do. Not with you scared for your life. Thus, I want to strike a deal. What? It's a truly generous deal for you. I will offer you my protection and to mend your broken heart. In exchange, you will provide me with the sustenance that I desire. Hector, if there is ever a time to calm down and think straight, then it's now. Be careful with what you say, don't agree with anything the demon says, and don't fall into temptation. Ronskai drags a hand down to his chest and abs, his claws accentuating every curve, every muscle before ever so slightly slipping under his buckle. He's smirking, well aware that I'm staring. By protection, I mean that I won't lay a finger on you without your permission. I will defend you from every threat in the valley. You and you alone will be safe to set foot there, no matter what. As for mending your heart, don't fall for it, Hector. Remember that he's a demon. By mending and eating, I mean the same thing. Let me comfort you. Those 9 years of pent-up feelings are all too delicious to let go to waste. I want them for myself. That's absurd. I would never. Why not? Because I'm a demon. Or could it be that you still hold devotion for the man that broke your heart? He knows everything. My dream about Katagan. Was that him probing my mind? I shouldn't be surprised. He's something me and other mortals don't comprehend, but I can't think straight. Be honest now. Weren't you disappointed by Cat again? Tall and icy as a mountain summit, unreachable, devoid of all the searing fire that you yearn for. But me? I'll burn you all you want. I'll hold you and lick your wounds all you want. Once we know each other better, you'll agree I'm much, much more to your liking, Badger. Taking a deep breath, I begin murmuring to God to not let me fall for this creature's sweet words and temptation, and to my ancestors to guide me so that I don't stray from the good path. Rannai raises an eyebrow, leaning closer. Are you praying? The demon laughs, his eyes closed shut and his mouth twisted into a wild smile. I shoved him away, and although he barely flinches, I slip out from under him. My futile attempt at an escape only amuses him further. There's nowhere to run, you dull wooden man. But don't worry, I'll grant you time to consider my offer. In the meantime, consider this a show of my goodwill. The demon's hand glows as he extends it towards me. I cower and hide behind the bed, not knowing what to expect. However, soon I realize he's offering me a handshake. Pick a word, then touch my hand and say it out loud. You'll be able to repel me. You lie, demon. Since when do demons lie, Hector? Swallowing saliva, I stand up and take a hold of his hand. Fading. The glow subsides, but Rannai doesn't let me go. Again. Fading. Then it returns, accompanied by a terrible sound. Rannai quickly pulls away. His hand is on fire, and although he doesn't let it show on his face, it's obvious that he's in pain. It is done. Say fading while I'm touching you, and I'll burst into flames. Don't even think about doing something idiotic like hugging me and saying it over and over, or I'll make you regret it. But if you want a hug, I'll allow it. Alright. You do want one then? No, you already know what I meant. Rannai cackles and with an exaggerated gesture, raises his hand again. I'll be back soon, Hector. Think carefully about what you want for your future. All I know of the future is that I don't want to have any involvement with the demon. You wanted Cadigan to change your life, didn't you? To be an inspiration, a hero that would save you from constraints of your pathetic, stifled life. I'm no hero, but everything else I can provide. You just have to say yes, next time. Until then, Hector. He snaps his fingers, and as suddenly as he appeared, he's gone. I'm half crouching by the bed, half expecting him to jump at me from some dark corner, but by the time that I calm down enough for the night's bitter cold to bother me, I realize that I'm truly alone. Only then do my legs give in and I fall on the floor, heaving. I don't know when it happened, but the door is back too. Was that really not a dream? Am I going insane? No, I shouldn't entertain any of the possibilities, or else the demon might come back in a more vengeful mood. As I wind down, a thought pops into my head. I immediately try to drown it, but alone and shivering as I am, there is nothing that I can do to stop it from surfacing. Maybe it wouldn't have been so bad to accept that hug, right? So, I'm gonna have to, I am re-recording this outro again, because they decided to change a little bit, just a teeny bit, of one of the scenes for chapter 11. Originally, there wasn't a CG, and some of the text was a little different. So yeah, this is why I'm re-recording this. So Hector has finally told Catgan, and I know that I mispronounced a whole bunch of names and whatever. But oh well, you'll have to live with it. But Hector finally told Catgan what he felt about him, and Catgan basically said, I can't be with you. And yeah, basically Hector has to suck it up. Originally, that conversation went just a teeny bit different from what I remember. originally Cadgan doesn't try to explain why. Like, he does tell him, like, oh yeah, I'm too different, etc., etc. But he doesn't really go into much more detail other than that. Like, it doesn't show in his face where he's like, oh, I'm sorry, there's something else going on, but I can't tell you about it. It's really more like, yeah, I'm too different, it's been kind of long, and I really don't think that it would be a good idea for both of us to be together. And in my mind, I think it might have been better to leave it that way. Like, yeah, like add the CG, whatever, if you want. But, like, I don't think that the text needed to have, like, that little extra piece of information where it shows that, like, Cadgan really wants to be with you, but he can't for whatever reason. Because it kind of made having the little demon dude, it's not little, the big demon guy, show up and then basically taunt and try to lure Hector in, you know, with promises of being everything that Cadgan can't be. It now makes me think that perhaps the demon has already gotten to Cadgan, because he kind of looks... When they were going into the valley, it seemed more that he was... that he might have perhaps made the same type of deal with the demon that the demon is trying to make with Hector, perhaps. Where it's like, I offer you protection, and perhaps in his case, I offer you maybe health in exchange for you giving me something that I want. And for Hector, it's I offer you protection in the valley in exchange for carnal pleasure or whatever. My guess is that it's probably having more to do with the Duke than anything else, because he's the one that's messing around in the valley. So I guess in some way it does sort of kind of hint to Cadgan having something more going on than he is letting on. But at the same time, it kind of changes a little bit of the tone about why, or... The gist is that I preferred the other way that it was, where Cadgan just sort of... It felt like he was just flat out refusing or denying Hector's... like saying like, oh, I love you, do you love me back? I want to be with you, do you want to be with me? And Cadgan going like, no, I don't think that's a good idea. And now it's like, no, I don't think it's a good idea because there is something going on. Like, yeah, we all know something's going on. You don't have to tell us too. I don't know. I feel kind of disappointed about that. It's really just like an added sentence, I think, or like a few added sentences, but I really don't think that they were needed. But whatever. What do I know? I am not a writer, as far as you guys know. You'll never read anything that I have written. But yeah. So, I mean, if you have already seen the first build, like somebody else already read it, because, you know, I know there's a bunch of other furries, YouTubers or Twitch streamers that do tend to read the visual novels like the minute that they're released, and they stream it. So if you by any chance caught those and you saw the original scene, that then, you know, tell me what you think. Otherwise, you know, oh well, I guess nobody will ever know but me, because I have the original. I even have the recording of the original, that's why, you know. Anyways, the story overall... I'm not sure if I'm interested. The writing style is a bit more different than what I'm used to. It's a bit like... I'm not sure if melodramatic is the correct word, but it feels like it's like I'm reading a book rather than I'm reading a visual novel. Which, I mean, I know that seems kind of silly because a visual novel is basically a book. Like, Liar is basically a book. But this feels more bookish than any other visual novel that I've read. And that's not because, oh, there's no choices or anything like that. No, it's just the writing is very much like somebody's writing a book. What else? I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just, it feels very different. I'm not sure if I jive with that or not. I read outside of furry visual novels. I also read books, so I don't know if I want to read a furry book. Actually, well, I've read a furry book. I've read Waterways and the Out of Position books and stuff like that. So it's like, I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you feel about the writing, about the story? Like, I'm still not sure if I am into it, really. And in reality, the only reason that I read it was because of my friend. He likes Neris, and I guess the person that is doing the writing programming, Roddio, is the writer for Neris. So I mean, I guess that's why he would like it. And he does need to keep reading Neris, for the channel. Eventually, he will get to it when Neris gets updated. But considering that they're working on this now, what are the chances of that happening? Anyways, so yeah. I guess, yeah, like, write down what you think so far, and thank you all for watching / listening. If you would like to play Devil's Gambit yourself, you can do so by going down into the link in the description, which should have a direct link which should have a link for the Twitter page and the Blue Sky page, which should have a direct link for the itch.io page where you can download it and play it, or you can just go to itch.io and search for it and download it and play it that way. I will also be posting down a link for their Patreon where you can support the project and get early access to builds of Devil's Gambit. I believe this is Alpha O's Patreon, if I recall correctly, because I already uploaded the videos once, but then, copyrights. So now I'm looking for one song to replace one song in this game, but there's 4 songs in this game that are copyrighted. So programmers, people that are working on this, if you happen to see this video, please don't use copyrighted or royalty-free music. I know it's royalty-free, you should be able to use it. No, I can't. I mean, it's up to you if you want to or not. Still. Anyways, so my coffee's down in the description as well in case you want to support me through there. And channel members, these are the people who are supporting me now. I mean, not that you guys, regular people are not supporting me, but these guys are actively supporting me by giving me money on a monthly basis. Kind of like as if it was a Patreon. I really wish I could do more with it, but I'm short for time. Anyways, but yeah, these are the people who are supporting me. Thank you very much. It is very appreciated. It makes you better than anyone else, in my eyes. But yeah. Anyway, so yeah. If you do support me, then, you will have seen this video before anyone else, so yeah. Otherwise, you would have to have waited. But anyway, so yeah, I guess that's it for now, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.